Welcome. In front of me is the iPhone 16 Pro Max from Apple, and I'll go over unboxing along with a quick look at the device and its specifications. This is basically the highest end version of the 16 lineup, and this one specifically is actually, I have no clue how many gigabytes does it have. Does it say here? 256. I think this is actually like the entry, right? Let's see. Yep, 256 is the base entry of this, but you can spec it up to 1 terabyte of storage. And this is technically the only thing that can change between like the Pro Max. So you can have 256, 512 or 1 terabyte of storage. Anyway, popping it open, you can probably already see that on the box. We don't have a charger provided, and also based on the actual size of the box, you can see that. And these pull tabs, actually, it seems like they kind of made them harder to peel off for some reason. Come on. Ooh, almost fell out. Great. So there we go. That's how it's normally would be located. But you can see here's the device. Next, we got a braided cable. That's actually pretty neat. And this is a Type-C cable, so that's pretty sweet. Both ends are, I should also specify. So obviously, you can now utilize Type-C, and if you have a charger lying around, that's great. You don't need to buy a new one from Apple that costs, you have the Apple tax on it, so that's pretty sweet. I guess Apple is going to have less revenue nowadays because they can't put Apple tax on a typical charger and a cable. Though there are chances that these cables are just, altered in some way to just work crappier if you have a third-party one, as long as it's not Apple certified, because everything Apple certified is required to pay Apple tax. Anyway, and here we also have just paperwork. Even for the price that you get to pay, you don't get stickers. Beats me why, because I don't know, stickers aren't that expensive to not include them. Anyway, peeling that off, we'll be presented with a display, and we still have this disgusting notch, or not even notch, it's more like a hole punch, island punch basically, as we have a camera and the sensors right next to each other. You can kind of see the darker area if I can get it there. For goodness sake, oh there we go, you can kind of see it now. Obviously it's the same, there we go, as it was in the previous versions. Instead of, kind of getting rid of this to have pretty damn good screen to body ratio, like these bezels are minimal. Wow, that looks actually pretty good. So yeah, these are almost non-existent bezels, and this device actually rocks a 91.4% screen to body ratio. Now it would be running even more if it decided to get rid of that disgusting island. I don't care what kind of bullshit you want to put on for it, making it bigger and adding some functionality to it doesn't make it a feature, just makes it a gimmick. So yeah. Anyway, let's talk about even further about the display. So this is an LTPO Super Retina XDR OLED display. That's a lot of bullshit right here, but basically the gist of it, it's a OLED display. Super Retina just refers to the resolution, which I'm not sure why it's super when Apple claimed that Retina is basically the best resolution that you will need, considering it's unperceivable to the eye. Pixels are unperceivable, so Super Retina is for eagles. But basically it's just, they decided to first be like, oh, Retina is good enough, trying to bait you into thinking that 1080p resolution on a $1,200 device is fine. And now they're just kind of starting to fall so far behind that they're putting Super Retina and giving you a 1320 by 2868 pixels. So this is a good resolution, and one that you'd expect for the price of this device. So you can't really complain about that. The fact that it's an OLED, it's fantastic. That means that the black levels here are just infinite. And the device also supports Dolby Vision, has a peak brightness of 2000 nits, 120 Hz refresh rate, and HDR10. For some reason, it doesn't have HDR10 Plus certification. guess it was too much to certify it. Because if I remember correctly, the HDR10 means that the device is capable of displaying it, but HDR10 means that it's actually certified, and certification would imply that, you know, the device's the peak brightness needed to actually display the HDR content correctly. There is no plus, even though this is an OLED display with a 2000 nits brightness. It's well above what you would require from an HDR display, but you know, it costs more, I presume, to have it certified. So yeah, fantastic. What is it? It's a $1,200 device. Fantastic. And they just decided to, you know, skip the gimmicks like certification. It cuts away from the costs. Anyway, continuing on, the pixels per inch are pretty damn good at 460. This is, I think, at the moment the highest one I have seen, I think. So yeah, pretty good. Obviously, the resolution right here is what I would consider a bit of an overkill. Even there, this is what I would be probably considering as a retina, as I ain't gonna see any kind of pixels up here, even if I just shove it straight in my face. So that's good. Now, moving on into the internals, let's talk about the processor, the batteries, and all that stuff. So when it comes down to the processor, it's an Apple A18 Pro chip. So they did skip, I think, A17. They are going straight for that like AI crap everywhere. I guess they didn't see the statistics that apparently AI makes the devices sell worse, but then again, it's Apple, so people will buy it anyway. So yeah, they decided to skip over that, so they can put in the AI stuff, chip that just deals with that better. And I think they did it for all the lineup now. So previously the lower end versions of it, like for instance the 16, would have had a crappier processor. I think this one's nowadays, let me just quickly check. I think they are running the same exact chip all around. The difference is I think this one has a Pro, so most likely an overclocked version of it, while the other ones do have, yep, the non-Pro version. So this one just tries to be a little bit faster with like overclocking as it's Pro. And in terms of the clocks on these processors, it's a hexa-core. Two of the cores are at 4.04 gigahertz, and other 4 are running at 2 gigahertz. And just to compare that to the non-Pro version, the non-Pro version has hexa-core and it's not specified. Great, fantastic. I love to see that. So in reality, we have no way of knowing what the difference is. Great. I mean, I guess you can just do benchmarks, and this will probably give you some kind of idea of the differences, but that will require you to have both of the phones, or just go out of your way to look for videos about it. Anyway, moving on with the internals, 256 gigs and goes up to 1 terabyte, like I mentioned before, and all the options come with measly 8 gigabytes of RAM for $1,200. Now I understand this phone doesn't really need all that much, because it's optimized, but like, for God's sakes, you're paying $1,200, you better get 12 gigs. And Apple has been obviously the king when it comes down to scamming their user base of basically specifications and telling them, believe me, trust me, bruh, this is fine. While other devices like mid-range phones nowadays have more RAM than the computers from Apple. So yeah. So we have 8 gigabytes. I do want to also be the devil's advocate right here, meaning devil as the Apple company. These are candy bar phones. They don't really do too much multitasking on top of that. So 8 gigabytes here is, I would say, probably good enough. If you would have like a foldable phone or one that can just actually multitask well at the same time, with like multiple applications, then you know that would probably require you to have more RAM, and this device would actually start to show the fact that 8 gigabytes is not enough. But anyway, with that being said, we can now move over to the cameras. And the cameras, with the main sensor, we are looking at a 48 megapixel sensor, f1.8 aperture, 24mm wide lens. Then we got a 12 megapixel f2.8 aperture, 120 millimeter periscope telephoto. And then we got an 84. Why am I missing these? 48 megapixels, f2.2 aperture, 13mm ultra wide. And obviously it's a pro lineup, so we also have the time of flight right here, 3D LiDAR sensor for depth scanning. And with these cameras you can do 4K up to 60 with, I presume this is slow motion, of 100 and 120 frames. At 1080p you basically get the same thing, though we get 120 frames and 240 of, I presume, like I said, slow motion. That also supports 10-bit HDR, Dolby Vision HDR, and this is up to 60 frames though. And ProRes and 3D spatial videos. So this is for the people that also have the severely overpriced VR headset. And yes, I'll call it VR headset. I refuse to call that bullshit anything else rather than VR, as that's what it is. And AI is not Apple Intelligence, just saying. With these phones you can capture videos that then, if you have this headset, you can view it in, well, 3D basically. I also want to add that Meta did kind of, copy that, because Apple couldn't patent this crap, luckily. So Meta can also view these kind of photos on the headset in 3D, just the same way that a Vision Pro would. So you don't need to spend 5 times more on a headset if you want to have like a 3D view of these kind of things. You can just spend like $400 nowadays, instead of the 3,000, what is it, 500. So just putting that out there. Anyway, at the front we have our selfie, and that houses a 12 megapixel f1.9 aperture, 23mm wide lens. And we also have the typical biometric scanner, the 3D depth for biometrics. In terms of videos, we're looking at 4K up to 60 frames, 1080p up to 60 with, I presume, again, slow motion of 120, supporting gyroscopic electronic image stabilization. And in terms of cameras, that's about it. So now let's get to the other stuff, like the build quality. Now, one more thing that I want to point out, I didn't mention battery, because it's Apple, so they didn't give you any specifications for the battery. It's basically go screw it or take it apart and figure it out yourself. Again, kind of scammy. So I have no clue. Apparently the device supports a power delivery 2.0, which advertised speeds is 50% in 30 minutes. That is honestly not that impressive for a $1,200 device. And because it's Apple, it also has the MagSafe, so wireless charging, and that supports 25 wireless charging speeds. And Qi 2 charging standard is wireless 15 watts, and you also have reverse wired charging at 4.5 watts. So there we go, that's all there is to the battery. Like I said, still don't know what the battery size here is, but it actually might be either very big, considering it's 50% in 30 minutes, or the charging speed is pretty low, and I can't really say how fast it actually charges, because again, Apple didn't necessarily specify. They're only advertising that it's power delivery 2.0 with minutes per percent, basically, not actual charging speeds, unlike every other device on the freaking planet does it. Anyway, so that's basically the internals. Now, if we take a look at the actual build quality, you might be confused. It looks exactly the same like the previous year, and you would be very correct. Now, the only difference here is, I believe the corners here of the chassis going around the frame are a bit more rounded, so they feel nice in hand. I can't deny that. The device lays really nicely in hand. Another difference is the inclusion of this little shutter button / slider for zooming in and just switching modes and doing all that stuff. So that's a pretty cool thing to have right here. One thing that I want to kind of point out, devices that had like a fingerprint sensor on a power button technically could have done this as well, and that also could have been a fingerprint sensor that doubles as a power button. So that would kind of remove a button, because it is pressable, it does know that you're sliding on it, and technically it could have been, like I said, just a fingerprint sensor, which would allow you to easily unlock your device by just kind of like scanning your fingerprint, like every other device does it. Other phones do it because it's good. And then they could have gotten rid of this garbage right here. So yeah, just kind of, you know, putting some comparisons and some facts right here. What could have been probably better for a device that has not changed for 4 years now at this point. So I think 4th generation that looks almost exactly the same. And the logic of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, doesn't really apply here, because other devices have pushed forward, innovated. I fail to see where the innovation here is. So yeah. Now, build-wise, we have glass back. We have what I think is a titanium frame. Let me quickly make sure. Glass, yep, titanium frame, grade 5. And yeah, that's about everything that there is to it. So, taking a look at around the device as well, we have a little bit of antennas at the top, nothing apart from that. On the left side we have our SIM tray. There we go, you can see it now. SIM tray that allows you to put in just a single SIM card. Now, if I'm correct, and I might not be, I think the US versions of these devices actually might not have any kind of SIM tray, and you would be required to use an eSIM. Though I could be very wrong about that. I don't know if I seen that correctly at one point. So if your device doesn't have anything here, that just means that you will need to use only eSIM. And this specific device in Europe, at least, supports physical card, SIM card, and also eSIM. Then we have our volume rockers right here, and a basically like a button for silent modes and all that stuff. I still prefer the switch that was previously on the iPhones. That was, in my opinion, better. Just preference. The button, you need to hold it. The switch was so cool. Now OnePlus only has that. At the bottom we have our speakers and microphone, along with our Type-C charging port. Thank you, European Union. And then on our right side we got more antennas right here, our gigantic power button, and the camera button, along with the slider, whatever they named it, along with additional camera antenna below here. And that's it. So there we go. Now, honestly, if you have the previous version of this device, I probably wouldn't recommend upgrading to this one. It is egregiously expensive, looks almost identical to the previous version, and the improvements in performance at this point, phones are so fast that you won't really see that big of a difference between, like, you know, opening up speeds and stuff like that. So it's not worth it, at least I would argue, to upgrade it to a new device if the previous one functions well for you still. And obviously just upgrading to a new one for the sake of upgrading is just a waste of money, as these are almost exactly the same devices, and the only thing that you have is different is the fact that you have this little camera specific kind of slider button thingy thing. And I don't think that is worth upgrading to a new version of this device. So yeah, that's at least my take. So anyway, with that being said, hopefully you found this absolutely negative overview of this device fun, helpful. As you probably gathered from it, I'm not necessarily the biggest Apple fan nowadays. They haven't really done much over the years, so it just, you know, feels like yesterday meal at tomorrow's price. So yeah, that's just kind of my take. So anyway, don't forget to smash that like button if you found this video fun, and thanks for watching.